Welcome to anatomy classes. We are going to start with the female reproductive organs today. We shall do a case study which is related to female reproductive system. So the clinical aspect related to today's topic is regarding a 34-year-old woman visited gynecopedy with the complaints of not able to conceive and has noticed abdominal swelling for past 8 months. She has regular menstrual cycles, but the cycles were with heavy bleeding, with heavy clots, and no abdominal pain, and her bowel habits were normal, and there was increased urinary frequency. On examination, the abdomen is distended with a non-tender, mobile, palpable, firm mass which is smooth in texture and which is present above the pubic symphysis and below the umbilicus. On further investigation with MRI, here there is no, in MRI it is observed that there is a mass in the uterus. So here is the sagittal section showing the mass, and this is the antero-posterior view where we can see the mass in the uterus. So what are these masses? These are the most common benign tumors and which are termed as leiomyomas, and commonly they are named as fibroids. So the tumors are found in at least 20 to 20% of women in active reproductive life, and they are estrogen responsive, and they increase rapidly in size during pregnancy and regress after menopause. The cause of the tumor is unknown, so they are idiopathic, and the size may vary. They can be as small as a papilla and as large like a heavy tumor, massive tumor, and that fills the whole of the pelvis. So here in this patient we can see a massive tumor which is filled whole of the pelvis, compressing the urinary bladder. So that is the reason she had increased frequency of urination. So let's see what are these fibroids. So uterine fibroids are various varieties. Some may be pedunculated, which is out of the uterus and within the uterine cavity. Some may be present within the wall of the uterus, muscular wall of the uterus, called as intramural fibroid. Sometimes the fibroid may appear in the fallopian tubes, tubal fibroids, and within the submucosa, called as submucosal fibroids. So these are the varieties of fibroids are often seen in the uterus. So to understand further investigations in uterine fibroids, it is important to know the anatomy of uterus and other reproductive organs associated with the uterus in females. Today which we are going to discuss are ovaries, uterine tubes and uterus in detail. So we shall do ovaries and uterine tubes. Beginning with the ovaries are the reproductive glands in females, and they are mainly concerned with the production of oocytes, and they also produce some hormones like estrogen and progesterone. And these ovaries are almond shaped structures which are present on the either side of the uterus in the lesser pelvis of females. The position of the ovaries varies based on the age and based on the pregnancies. So in a newborn, the ovaries are present just above the pelvic brim, and in nulliparous woman, means the woman who had not undergone pregnancy, in such women the ovaries are present just below the pelvic brim. And in women who had undergone repeated pregnancies, the ovary descend down in between the uterus and the rectum. So the pouch is called as recto-uterine pouch or Douglas pouch. So it descends down into the recto-uterine pouch or Douglas pouch in women who had undergone repeated pregnancies. So the axis of the ovary, the long axis of the ovary is vertically placed in nulliparous women, whereas in women who had undergone pregnancies and all, slowly the vertical axis here turns to horizontal. So the long axis becomes horizontal and slowly the ovaries also changes its position. And the surface texture of the ovary, the surface is quite smooth before puberty, before attaining menarche, before the beginning of ovulation. The ovaries are greyish pink in color and they are very smooth in texture. And later, after when the woman attains menarche and due to repeated ovulations, the ovary keeps rupturing for every ovulation and scarring occurs. So because of this ovulation, the surface becomes uneven and rough and they almost turn to be grey in color in adult age. So that is about the texture of the ovaries. And situation, actually the position varies, as we know in nulliparous women. They are present just below the uterine tubes in a fossa called as ovarian fossa. Ovarian fossa is the lateral boundary of the ovary, which is separated by a parietal peritoneum, which is related to parietal peritoneum, resting on obturator vessels and nerves. And this ovarian fossa, anteriorly it is bounded by obliterated umbilical artery and posteriorly it is bounded by internal iliac artery. So that is about the ovarian fossa and its boundaries. Let's see some external features of ovary also. Ovary has got two ends. One is the tubal end, the other is the uterine end, and it has got two borders. The borders are called as meso-ovarian border and the free border, and it has got two surfaces, medial surface and lateral surface of ovary. So it has got two ends. One end is the tubal end, which is related to the uterine tube or the fallopian tube, related to the fimbriated end of the uterine tube, and the other end is the uterine end, which is connected to the uterus by the ligament of ovary, which is a peritoneal connection between the ovary and the lateral angle of the uterus, which is called as ligament of ovary. So that is about the uterine end, the other is the tubal end, and it has got two borders which are called as meso-ovarian border. Meso-ovarian border is an anterior border. This meso-ovarian border, where we see the ovarian artery here, they enter into the ovary and vessels, nerve plexus are all related to this meso-ovarian border. Here near the meso-ovarian border, the peritoneal fold gets reflected and it gets connected to the posterior layer of broad ligament. Here is the broad ligament which is present on the either side of the uterus, is the broad ligament of uterus. So the meso-ovarium is the fold of peritoneum which connects the broad ligament to the ovary, that is called as meso-ovarian. So the border is called meso-ovarian border, and this border acts as the hilum of the ovary where the structures go in, that is the ovarian artery go in and venous plexus of the ovary come out, and nerve plexus are also enters through the ovary through this border. The other border is the free border, and where it is relatively free, it doesn't have any attachments. It has got two surfaces, medial surface and lateral surface. The lateral surface is very important where it forms bed for the ovary, that is ovarian fossa in nulliparous women. And this ovarian fossa, it is bounded anteriorly by obliterated umbilical artery and posteriorly it is bounded by the internal iliac artery. And this fossa separates the ovary from the obturator vessels and nerves by parietal peritoneum. So that is about the ovary, and blood supply of the ovary, it is supplied by ovarian artery. So right ovary is supplied by right ovarian artery and left ovary are supplied by left ovarian arteries. And venous drainage of the ovary drains into pampaniform plexus of veins which appears to be vine-like, and these pampaniform plexus of veins will join to form right ovarian vein on the right side and left ovarian vein on the left side. Right ovarian vein drains directly into inferior vena cava, and left ovarian vein drains into the renal vein, left renal vein further drains into the inferior vena cava. Lymphatic drainage of the ovary is along the uterine tubes and the fundus of the uterus, which drains into para-aortic or lateral aortic lymph nodes. Next, about the uterine tubes. Uterine tubes are the muscular tubes which are also called as fallopian tubes or oviducts or salpinx, and these uterine tubes convey the oocytes which are produced from the ovary after every ovulation to the uterus, and these uterine tubes are highly tortuous structures connecting the uterus to the ovary, and the length of the uterine tubes are approximately around 10 centimeters in length, that is around 4 inches in length, and we can divide the uterine tube into 4 parts. Means the part present within the wall of the uterus, which is called as intramural part, then isthmus. Isthmus continues to form a dilated part of the uterine tube, which is called as ampulla, and ampulla ends like an infundibulum having an ovarian fimbria, which is finger like structures around the opening of the fimbriated end. So this is called as infundibulum. So it has got 4 parts: intramural part, isthmus, ampulla and the infundibulum, and it has got 2 openings. One opening is within the wall of the uterus, and the second opening is at the ovary, near the ovary, that is near the infundibulum. So the opening which is present within the uterus, it is called as uterine ostium, and the opening which is near to the ovary are called as pelvic ostium because it opens into the pelvic cavity, or it is also called as abdominal ostium. So because of this pelvic ostium or abdominal ostium, this uterine tube pierces the peritoneum and opens out. That is the reason in females the peritoneal sac is open, and in males it is a closed sac. So let's see each part. So the first part is the intramural part, which is present within the wall of the uterus, and the length of the intramural part is 1 centimeter in length, and it extends from the uterine ostium till the isthmus. The uterine ostium, the diameter near the opening inside the uterus is around 1 mm in diameter. So later it continues to form the isthmus. Isthmus is coiled and solid cord-like structure which is highly muscular compared to its lumen. The lumen is smaller in isthmus, and isthmus makes around 3 to 4 centimeters in length. Isthmus makes around 3 to 4 centimeters in length. And the next is the ampulla. The ampulla is the dilated part of the uterine tube where the lumen is larger compared to the thickness of the wall. And here the ampulla is the site of fertilization, and the ampulla length varies from 5 centimeters to 6 centimeters in length. Further, the ampulla continues to form a funnel-like structure which is called as infundibulum, and this infundibulum ends up by forming a pelvic ostium or abdominal ostium, which is guarded by a finger-like projections which are called as ovarian fimbriae, and this ostium diameter is approximately 3 mm in diameter, and the length of the infundibular part is approximately 1 centimeter in length, and the diameter of the pelvic ostium is 3 mm. So that is about the parts of the uterine tube. And uterine tube, it is covered by a peritoneal fold of the broad ligament. So the upper border of the uterine tube is the free border, and lower border of the uterine tube is within the fold of broad ligament. So it is suspended in the medial 3/4 of the broad ligament. It is present within the medial 3/4 of the broad ligament of uterus. And the peritoneal fold, which is between the uterine tube and meso-ovarium, where the broad ligament, that part of the broad ligament is called as mesosalpinx. Blood supply of the uterine tube is by the uterine artery. Medial 2/3 of the uterine tube is supplied by the uterine artery, and lateral 1/3 it is supplied by the ovarian artery, and it is drained into internal iliac veins. And nerve supply, it has got sympathetic and parasympathetic supply. Sympathetic supply is from T10 to L2, and parasympathetic supply is S2, S3 and S4. And lymphatic drainage of uterine tubes, they drain ovaries and uterine tubes, they all drain into lateral aortic lymph nodes, or isthmus of the uterine tube drains the lymphatics along with the round ligament, and it drains into the inguinal group of lymph nodes, that is superficial inguinal group of lymph nodes. So beginning with the uterus, uterus is a childbearing organ in females, and it is pyriformed shape where it appears to be like inverted pear like, having a broad upper end and narrow lower end. And on the either side the uterus continues to form the uterine tubes or oviducts. And the length of the uterus, it is approximately 7.5 centimeters. So the dimensions are in the nulliparous women. In nulliparous women, the dimensions are 7.5 centimeters in length and 5 centimeters is its width. That is the diameter at the level of fundus, just above the opening of the uterine tubes. That is the maximum diameter of the uterus, where it is of 5 centimeters. And thickness is approximately 2.5 centimeters thickness. And the weight of the uterus is 30 to 40 grams in weight. So that is about the dimensions. And parts of the uterus, it is divided into fundus, body and cervix. It has got 3 parts. The fundus is the upper part of the uterus, which is above to the opening of uterine tubes or fallopian tubes. So above the fallopian tubal openings, the broad part of the uterus is called as the fundus, which is the free upper part of the uterus, and it is the site where the implantation occurs during embryogenesis. And further the uterus continues below this uterine ostium, it continues to form the body, and the body gets narrowed and constricted at the isthmus. There is a circular constriction around the lower to the body, which is called as the isthmus, where the uterus gets narrowed down to form the cervix. So these are the parts of the uterus: fundus, body and cervix. And cervix is further divided into 2 parts. The cervix protrudes down into the anterior wall of the vagina. Here is the vagina. So it protrudes into the anterior wall of the vagina, dividing the cervix into vaginal part. The part of the cervix which is within the vagina is called as the vaginal part, and the part of the cervix which is above to the vagina is called as supravaginal part. And inside the cervix, the canal is called as cervical canal, and where it has got 2 orifices. The upper orifice opens into the uterus, that is called as internal os, and the external os which opens into the vaginal cavity. So the internal os opens into the uterine cavity, and external os opens into the vaginal cavity. So that is about the cervical canal. And the supravaginal part, that is about to the vagina, the cervix laterally it is related to the ureter. So 2 centimeters lateral to the cervix, the ureter is present, and this ureter is crossed by the uterine artery. You can see the uterine artery which runs from lateral to the medial side of the ureter. Further it runs forming a tortuous course. So this is an important relation to the cervix, that is the ureter is related to the cervix. The other name for the uterus is hystera. So removal of the uterus is called as hysterectomy. So during hysterectomy, the ureter should be taken utmost care so that there should not be any rupture to the ureters while removal. The cervical canal inside, it consists of mucosal foldings which appears to be like a branching of a tree. And these mucosal foldings, which are like a branching of a tree, approximate with each other, closing the cervical canal. And this branching which appears to be like a tree, it is called as arbor vitae uteri. So that is about the mucosal foldings present within the cervical canal, and cervix is divided into two parts, supravaginal part and the vaginal part, and we know the relations of the cervix. Laterally on the either side it is related to the ureters and the uterine arteries. So these are the important points about the cervix, body and the fundus. As in this picture we are seeing a peritoneal fold on the either side of the uterus. We shall discuss and complete it. So the peritoneum, the uterus is covered anteriorly and posteriorly by the peritoneum. These two layers, anterior and posterior layers, laterally continues to form a very broad sheet of a peritoneal fold, which is called as broad ligament of uterus. Developmentally, the broad ligament of the uterus are derived from the mesenteries of paramesonephric ducts. So the broad ligament of uterus present on the either side, they travel along the lateral. So the lateral boundary of the uterus is not covered by the peritoneum because the two layers approximate at the lateral boundary of the uterus, and the broad ligament, the anterior and posterior layer will join to form this flat sheet like structure, dividing the lesser pelvis into anteriorly the bladder area where urinary bladder is present, and posteriorly intestinal compartment where the sigmoid colon and rectum is present. And this broad ligament is further divided into mesoovarium, mesosalpinx, mesometrium. So we shall do one by one. First is the mesosalpinx. Mesosalpinx is that part of broad ligament which is present between the uterine tubes and the ovaries and ovarian ligament. This part of the broad ligament is called as mesosalpinx because it is associated with uterine tubes. Meso-ovarian border is the anterior border of the ovary, where the posterior layer of the broad ligament gets folded to connect the anterior border of the ovary, which is called as meso-ovarian border, and this is called meso-ovarian. And next, mesometrium is the rest of the broad ligament below the ovarian ligament. This part is called as mesometrium. And suspensory ligament of ovary. The suspensory ligament of ovary connects the ovary to the uterine tube is called as the suspensory ligament of ovary. So all these are the parts of broad ligament uterus. The contents of broad ligament. The broad ligament contains the uterine tube. Except the intramural part of the uterine tube, the rest of the uterine tube is suspended within the broad ligament, and the broad ligament also contains the suspensory ligament of ovary and meso-ovarian, and it contains the uterine vessels which run along the lateral boundary of the uterus. These are the uterine vessels which take up a tortuous course, and ovarian vessels are also present in the broad ligament. The lower part of the ureter is also present in the broad ligament, and nerve plexus, lymphatics and ducts of hypophoron and ducts of paraoophoron. These ducts of hypophoron and paraoophoron, they are the remnant of mesonephric ducts. They are also the contents of broad ligament of uterus. So the uterus is a pelvic organ present in the lesser pelvis, and it is sandwiched between the urinary bladder anteriorly and posteriorly the rectum. So if we see the uterus, it is tilted over the urinary bladder, and the peritoneal reflection between the urinary bladder, where it reflects near the internal os, at the level of internal os, the peritoneum gets reflected along the anterior surface of the uterus and fundus of the uterus and goes towards the posterior side of the uterus. And the peritoneal reflection between the urinary bladder and the uterus, it is called as uterovesical pouch, which contains the coils of small intestine as the contents. And posteriorly, the peritoneal reflection between the rectum and it continues down, forming a most dependent part, which is called as the Douglas pouch or recto-uterine pouch. So that is about the peritoneal relations, and let's see the visceral relations. So most of it is covered by the peritoneum, and anteriorly it is related to the urinary bladder and longitudinal axis of the vagina and the longitudinal axis of the cervix. The longitudinal axis of the cervix, which makes a right angles between the axis of the cervix and axis of the vagina, which makes a right angle called as angle of anteversion. Version in anatomy means rotation of an organ around an axis. Here the cervical canal is rotated anteriorly. It is bent anteriorly around the transverse axis of the pelvis. So that is the reason it is called as angle of anteversion. And the next angle, which is very important to keep the uterus in position, is anteflexion. Anteflexion is between that is it is present as the isthmus of the uterus, that is it between the junction of the cervix and the uterus. So the angle between the uterus, the body of the uterus and the cervix at the internal os, it makes an angle again which is around 125 degrees. That angle is called as angle of anteflexion. So angle of anteversion, which is around 90 degrees, and the angle of anteflexion, which is around 125 degrees. These two angles keep the uterus above the urinary bladder when urinary bladder is empty. So which keeps the uterus in position. It is a important factor which keeps the uterus in position, preventing it from prolapse. And suppose the uterus, instead of bending forward, it is bent posteriorly, it is called as retroverted uterus. It is called angle of, within the pelvis, it is not in the midline. Usually it is moved towards the right side. So if you see the uterus, the cervical part of the uterus is the fixed part of the uterus, and the cervical part is approximately 2.5 centimeters in length. And rest of the uterus, the body and the fundus of the uterus, usually it shifts to right side because of the sigmoid colon. The distended sigmoid colon pressurizes the uterus towards the right side bend, which is called as dextrorotation. So because of right side, the cervix is shift towards the left side, which is called as levo-rotation. So these rotations you can appreciate in the anterior-posterior view. In sagittal view, we can see the angle of anteversion and angle of anteflexion. And let's see about the ligaments of uterus and supports of uterus. The ligaments of uterus, the peritoneal folds are called as the false ligaments of uterus, which are like secondary supports. The false ligaments are, one is the peritoneal reflection between the uterus and the urinary bladder, which is called as anterior ligament of uterus, which is also called as vesico-uterine pouch or uterovesical pouch. Posterior reflection of the peritoneum between the uterus and the rectum. It is called as recto-uterine pouch, which is the pouch of Douglas, which is the most in the pelvic cavity in females. And there are on the either side of the uterus, there are the broad ligaments, which we discussed a little earlier. Right and left broad ligaments are present, which acts like a secondary supports to uterus. Let's see the true ligament of uterus which supports the uterus. The true ligaments are, which are fibromuscular bands, and they are usually around the cervix. Around the cervix, the ligaments anteriorly pubocervical ligaments, which connects the posterior surface of the pubis to the cervix, which are called pubocervical ligaments, and posteriorly the cervix is connected to the sacrum, called as uterosacral ligaments. And on the either side, laterally, on the either side of the uterus, the cervix is connected to the lateral pelvic wall by transverse ligament, which are also called as McEnroe's ligaments or lateral ligaments. So transverse McEnroe's ligaments are present on the either side of the uterus, which prevents the uterus from prolapse and which supports the uterus. And there are two more important ligaments called as two round ligaments, right and left round ligaments. The round ligaments connects from the angle of the uterus, that is just above the uterine tubes, and the proximal part of the round ligament is present within the broad ligament. Proximal part of the round ligament lies within the broad ligament, and further it continues along the inguinal canal. It enters the deep inguinal ring, then runs in the inguinal canal and comes out of the inguinal canal, and further the round ligament splits into fibrous septa, which blends with the labium majus in females. So because of the anterior pull, the uterus is kept in anteverted position, and the cervix is pulled posteriorly by uterosacral ligaments. These two ligaments are the ligaments which keep the uterus in anteverted and anteflexion position. Supports of the uterus. The uterus is mainly supported by its position itself, that is angle of anteversion and angle of anteflexion, and there are round ligaments of uterus which connects from the fundus, that is the angle between the fundus and the body, to the via the inguinal canal, and it merges with the labium majus. So the round ligament of the uterus pulls the uterus forwards, and posterior pull by the uterosacral ligaments, and anteriorly the cervix is connected to pubocervical ligaments. On the either side of the cervical canal, laterally there are ligaments called as transverse ligaments, which are also called as Meckenroth's ligaments, which are present on the either side of the uterus below the broad ligament. So this is transverse ligament, which is also called as Meckenroth's ligaments. And from below, the uterus is supported by the pelvic diaphragm, which is mainly by levator ani muscles, urogenital diaphragm, and perineal body. The perineal body is formed by the intersection of 10 muscles, where 10 muscles attach to form the perineal body. Those are 2 superficial transverse perineum, 2 deep transverse perineum, 2 pubococcygeus, 2 bulbospongiosum muscle, and external anal sphincter muscle, and longitudinal muscle coat of anal canal. So all these muscles attach to the perineal body, which supports the perineum. So perineal body is considered as the gynecological perineum, which supports the perineal organs, preventing it from prolapse. And the external sphincter of the urethra also supports the uterus, preventing it from prolapse. So these are the supports of uterus. And let's see the blood supply. The uterus, on the either side we have seen the uterine artery is present on the either side. So the uterine artery is the principal artery of the uterus, and the ovarian artery also supplies to the uterus partly. So that is about the arterial supply. And venous drainage, they drain into uterine veins and ovarian plexus of veins and vaginal veins. All of them finally drain into internal iliac veins. And nerve supply of the uterus, it is supplied by sympathetic and parasympathetic. And sympathetic are derived from the hypogastric plexus, which are from the thoracic 12th to L2. Thoracic 12 to L2 segments. And parasympathetic is S2, S3 and S4. That is about the nerve supply. And lymphatic drainage of the uterus, it is drained into 3 groups of lymph nodes: upper group, middle group and lower group. Upper group of lymph nodes drain into aortic lymph nodes. The upper group drains into aortic lymph nodes. And the middle group drains into external iliac lymph nodes, and lower group drains into external iliac and internal iliac lymph nodes. So this is all about female reproductive organs in short. I hope this session is helpful for you all. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe and press the bell button for further notifications. And associated organs YouTube links I am posting in my description box, and please check them out.